Once again have today part 2 of the WPL B36 makeover. This is part 2 of a 3-part series. What I wanted to share with you was some of the things that I did to this to make it better. So one of the most important things I did for this, as in the previous video, was I changed out plastic drives for metal drives. That was a significant change. What I did on this one was I also wanted to put in a 2-speed transmission from WPL, which was a significant change. Very, very easy to do, like I had expected WPL. It fits right in. I had to do no cutting of the body or anything. Actually, even the holes align right on the frame rails. Fits right in. It's perfect. It's almost like it was made for it. Why they didn't put it in, I don't know. For the price quote of $60, I can see why. Another thing that I opted to do was to put in some metal differentials. And I will admit the metal differentials are pretty sweet. As I mentioned before, I really do recommend that you actually put grease inside the differentials. As for the turning, it is at least 15 to 20 degrees greater turning radius than actually on the stock. Quite ironically, because these differentials are tighter on the road, or should I say any hard surface other than dirt, when you do turn that sharp, these center reels will actually chatter a little bit, mainly because the turn is too tight and you've got locked differentials on either end. But that's a pretty good part. I didn't do it to run around the room, I wanted to run outside. So I will say that one of the things about having the metal differentials was it is a lot heavier and it does add a bit more weight. I was not pleasantly surprised at power in first gear was a little bit less than I had hoped for, unless you've got a fully charged battery. So I'm going to work on that a little bit, and I'll let you know in part 3 of the series. I have a lot of still pictures that you'll see of what I have done in each area and section as I was working on it. I did, as promised, I did put in shocks, which if you look at the first video, a lot more stable. It does not rock and roll back and forth as much as the other ones with regular springs. The shocks themselves, I think, worked out beautifully. It still has great articulation, even though I have a fair amount of oil inside these shocks. I have 80 weight gear oil, actually, in these less expensive shocks. I know some people go like, what? That's too much! Well, I like spring ability, and to have the springs be able to be soft and the shocks dampening to actually be rather hard. A little always concerned about wiring. I will say that there were a couple of things on the actual ESC that I had that I needed to cut the actual male and female plugs off the wires and actually go direct to the ESC from that. And you'll also see that in the little stills that I have. I have a little diagram describing that also, as well as the diagram that I got online from the ESC, which works pretty well. The actual Dumbork 6-channel radio that I've got does work pretty well. One of the things that I had in one of my other vehicles, not the WPL, but the MN, was the shifting between high and low in the transmission gearbox. There's a small lever that actuates back and forth. Well, that lever actually slides on the shaft a little bit. So unfortunately, I had the same thing with this one. So it will go great into gear, and then it'll go into second gear fine, and then you'll do it again and it won't work. So it's sliding on that shaft. It's unfortunate just the way they have it set up. I did put, and I will recommend this also, and it's not easy once you take this thing apart and put grease in it, but the transmission itself, I just quickly pulled it apart, shoved a lot of grease in there, and that made for a very, very smooth action in the shifting when it did shift and stay in gear. So, I'm trying to think here. I mean, there are a couple of other little issues that I did. When I got these particular differentials on here, all of the hardware, the plastic hardware, the plastic stay arms and everything else, will fit on these quite nicely. There was only one difference I did on the bridge arms on the underside. Oh, actually you can see it in the back. It's the bridge arm in the back here that this, I used the plastic bridge arm from the original differentials. And what you have to do in order for the spring to slip in, you have to countersink the screws ever so slightly. And you'll also see in one of the stills that I've done that also. So, the next part of the project that we'll have today, well not today, that I'm going to do is take the complete body off, and I'm going to try to lighten the body a little bit. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to do that yet, but as I said, I'm going to try and see about giving it a little bit more power. So with that, I hope you enjoyed the first little videos that you saw and some of the other ones that I just did. The next part 3 is I will be painting the body and weathering it, giving it rust and maybe even a little bit of dirt. So that should be a lot of fun. I'm going to work on the transmission, and also part 3, I will let you know what I did to fix that. I did one thing, I put a sleeve in there with a set screw so that it can't slide on my MN, and that actually worked quite well. So that is that, and stay tuned in the next couple of weeks for part 3, Ural, WPL B36 remake. Thank you everyone, take care.